When it comes to fruits and high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes, you see that there are two camps in life. One camp tells you that you should eat fruit because it's healthy, because of all the vitamins, minerals, and healthy antioxidants that fruit can contain. But on the other hand, you have a camp of people who tell you that you should avoid it like the plague because it's full of sugars, carbohydrates, and often no or little dietary fibers. And like everything in life, the truth lies somewhere in between. Fruit can be healthy even if you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, but it can also be very unhealthy or even the cause of your high blood sugar if you pick the wrong fruits. That's why it's good to discuss this topic a bit further. I'm Ali from Illness Free Life, and in this video you'll learn if you can eat fruit if you have high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes, what to look out for when you pick fruit, and I'll also give you healthy fruit options if you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. Let's be honest here. If you have high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes, then it is important to look out for the amount and types of sugars and carbohydrates you eat. And whether you like it or not, fruit contains sugars and carbohydrates and thus makes it not the best product to eat when you have high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes. However, within the realm of fruits, there are a lot of fruits you can eat, and there are also a lot of fruits you should avoid. And it would be a short and easy video to just give you a list of all the things you could eat and all the things you should avoid and end it there. But the problem with these types of lists is that they never tell you the why behind them. And without the why, it's very hard to adhere to these lists because it will be just like commanding you to do something without explanation, and we know from research that this is a very bad way to change your habits. And chances are that you will not even stick to them in the long run because you don't know the why, and thus you don't know the reason why you should avoid something or do something. And without this motivation, it's very hard to maintain a lifestyle change. That's why we at Illness Free Life always try to teach you the why behind the things we say. Because if you know the why, you have more motivation to adhere to the advices we give you, especially if we tell you to avoid something you really like to eat or drink. So you could say that we at Illness Free Life live by the Chinese saying, give a man a fish and he'll have food for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll have food for a lifetime. And in this video, I'll both teach you how to fish and I'll give you some fish at the end of this video to just give you some examples of the things you could eat and should avoid. And when it comes to picking the right or wrong fruits, there are a lot of things we could consider. The amount of vitamins, the amount of minerals, the amount of healthy antioxidants, maybe even the protein amount in certain types of fruits. But all these things are not very, very important. It's good and healthy that a fruit might contain a lot of antioxidants or vitamins or minerals, but all these compounds are just there in trace amounts. If you don't eat fruit for the rest of your life, you generally don't miss anything beneficial for the body because a lot of the components of fruit can be found in other products such as vegetables. So when it comes to fruit, there are actually only two things we should consider: the amount of sugars and carbohydrates per unit of weight and the amount of dietary fibers per unit of weight. These two things are the most important factors to consider when choosing fruit, especially if you have high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes. And the reason is of course very obvious. The amount of carbohydrates and sugars in a fruit dictate how much sugar and carbohydrates you are able to absorb from your intestines into the bloodstream. And this, to a degree, determines the level of your blood sugar. The more carbohydrates and sugars a fruit contains, the higher your blood sugar can become. And the amount of dietary fibers compensate or counteract the carbohydrates and sugars to a degree. Because the more dietary fibers a product contains, the lower the amount of carbohydrates and sugars will be that you'll absorb from your intestines and at a slower rate, thus creating a situation where your blood sugar might not rise to a particularly high level, and the rate with which this happens will be slower if a product contains a lot of dietary fibers. So in an ideal situation, you eat fruit that contains low amount of sugars and carbohydrates and high amount of dietary fibers. That will be the best fruit to eat. The worst fruits are of course the opposite of this. High amount of sugars and carbohydrates, low amount of dietary fibers. And the majority of fruit will be somewhere in between. They contain moderate amount of carbohydrates and sugars and moderate amount of dietary fibers. Now, before we discuss popular fruits you should avoid and should eat, there is something we should discuss, and that is the product group that is definitely never ever healthy. And by this I mean the fruit juices. Fruit juices are the worst thing you could do to your health. Research shows that fruit juices are just as bad for your health as sodas. Fruit juices might smell healthier, might taste healthier, might look healthier than sodas, but to your body is exactly the same. And the main reason for this is that when you look at what they contain, you'll see that they, per unit of weight, contain as much or even more sugars and carbohydrates per unit of weight. And they lack any dietary fiber, or at least any significant amount of dietary fibers. And if you also take in consideration that most people think juices are healthy and thus drink more of them when compared to sodas, you get a deadly combination where you're drinking something that might contain more sugars and carbohydrates per unit of weight compared to sodas, and you drink more of it because you're under the assumption that it's healthy when it's not. And thus elevating your blood sugar, creating type 2 diabetes, and a lot more problems in your body. So juices made from fruit are always a big no-no. The main reason, of course, is you leave out the dietary fibers when you squeeze or juice the fruit you're using, but you keep all the sugars and carbohydrates in the drink. So basically, you're losing the only good thing in the fruit, and you're keeping the bad thing in the fruit exactly the same. We also don't advise you to eat a lot of dried fruits. Dried fruits can be healthy or unhealthy depending on the type of fruit you dried. But the most important problem with dried fruits is that they have lost the majority of their water content. And the water content is one of the most important and healthy things in fruits. Water not only hydrates the body, but also fills your stomach up and thus satiates your hunger. And if you dry a fruit, you lose the majority of this water content, and you'll only have a sugar-rich, carb-rich product, which still contains the same amount of dietary fibers per unit of weight, but because of the lack of juice in that fruit, you also lost a huge amount of the satiating effect a fruit might have, thus creating a situation where you might overeat dried fruits. And at the end of the day, that will mean that you will ingest a lot of sugars and carbohydrates you might not normally have ingested. Compare a regular apple with a dried apple, you'll eat way more, and you will be able to eat way more than of regular apples. And the main reason for this is the lack of water content. So when it comes to dried fruits, try to avoid these as much as possible. Even if the dried fruit is a healthy one, the lack of water in that dried fruit makes it a lot less healthy than the actual fruit itself. Just quick, before we continue, do you like this video or want to receive more of these videos? Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe for free to this YouTube channel. That way you'll help us reach more people to help improve their blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, and you'll never miss a video we publish. And now back to the video. Another thing you should avoid are spreads made from fruit, like jams or marmalades. These are often heavily promoted and marketed by the producers of these products with slogans such as low calorie, no added sugar, contains X amounts of fruits. But this is all just marketing BS, to be frank, especially if it's made from a fruit that is unhealthy in the first place. Because when it comes to jams and marmalades, they are often full with added sugars, and the fruit they begin with is often full of sugars and carbohydrates and low in dietary fiber, creating a situation where you're choosing a fruit which is unhealthy and making it even worse by adding a lot of sugar to it. Now, I know nowadays you also have jams and marmalades based on sweetener, which is of course a bit better, but again, if you're using a fruit that is unhealthy to begin with, the product you make from it will never ever be healthy. If the begin product is unhealthy, anything you make from it will also be unhealthy. Even if you added sweetener instead of sugar, it's still as unhealthy as the original fruit or even unhealthier. So don't get seduced by all the marketing mumbo jumbo they try to throw at you. Jams and marmalades are never ever healthy, and if they tomorrow disappear from the supermarkets, you won't miss anything important for your health. It's still a very sugary product, whether they added sugar or not, and it has zero health benefits. Yes, it's tasty, or yes, it can be tasty, but if that's your bar for eating stuff, then I'm afraid you will make very unhealthy and bad choices for your health. Fruit bread and fruit bars. These have also the same problem as the spreads. They often contain a lot of marketing mumbo jumbo on them, such as no added sugar, low in calories, contain X amount of fruits, which are made to give the presumption or the appearance that this product is healthy because it contains fruit. But just because something contains fruit does not mean it's healthy. Often they only use a small amount of fruits, and fruits that are low in dietary fiber, high in sugar and carbohydrates, and they mix it with a lot of bad and unhealthy ingredients such as flour to make the bread or the bar. But if you look at the nutritional value of the majority of these products, you will find that the fruits don't make the product any better, they often make it worse. And you'll end up eating a product that is high in sugar content, high in carbohydrate content, and low in dietary fiber content. And although it contains natural sugars and natural fruit pieces and is low in calories, it's still sugar-rich, carb-rich, and low in dietary fibers, which is the most important thing you should consider when it comes to your type 2 diabetes and high blood sugar. Now, when it comes to unhealthy fruits, I'm afraid that there are a lot of fruits to choose from. You could even say that the majority of fruits in the supermarket are bad. Usually the rule is if a fruit tastes sweet, it tends to be bad for your blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. And a short list of popular fruits that are unhealthy to eat when you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes are bananas, pineapples, mangoes, grapes, prunes, cherries, figs, watermelon. All these products have the same problem. They're high in sugar content, they're high in carbohydrate content, and low in dietary fiber content, meaning you'll absorb a lot of sugars and carbohydrates at a fast rate, and this will end up in your bloodstream, causing your pancreas to work very, very hard. And yes, you could eat these products once in a while, but problem is, once in a while becomes every day, and every day in the long run becomes high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. So if you want to do yourself a favor, please avoid these fruits as much as possible, especially because there are a lot of fruits to choose from that are way healthier and maybe just as tasty and practical to eat. When it comes to fruit you can eat, simple choices such as apples and pears are great choices to make. Apples and pears are not super healthy, they're in the intermediate category, but they are tasty to eat and practical to take with you. When it comes to pears and apples, there are no really bad choices. Green apple, Granny Smith apples tend to be healthier than other types of apples, but when it comes to apples and pears, just choose whatever you think is the most tasty and the kind you like the most and eat that type. Again, apples and pears are just in the intermediate category. They're not super healthy, they're not bad either, they're just meh. Another type of fruits to consider, which most people see as a vegetable, is avocado. It's low in sugars, low in carbohydrates, moderate in dietary fibers, but high in healthy fats. And these fats will satiate you very, very much, which is ideal because fats that satiate will cause you to eat less, which is good. Fats tend to have no or even a positive effect on your blood sugar, which is also a bonus. And avocado itself is a very versatile product. You can make it as a dip, as a spread, you can just slice it in bits and put it on your toast, or you can just eat it with a spoon. All great ways to eat avocado and a very healthy way to eat it too. Coconut is also a very healthy product to eat. It's also relatively low in sugars and carbohydrates, but super high in dietary fibers. It's one of the products that contains more fibers per unit of weight than sugars and carbohydrates. And this is very unique when it comes to products in general, especially when it comes to fruits. So if you want to eat coconut, if you like eating coconut, eat as much coconut as you want, because it's one of the best things you can eat in the fruits category. Also, the majority of berries are very healthy to eat. Think of blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and pretty much every other berry there is. They tend to be low or moderate in sugar and carbohydrate content and okay in dietary fiber content. An added bonus is that most berries contain a lot of healthy antioxidants, which are beneficial compounds for your body. They tend to increase your insulin sensitivity, which is very important if you have high blood sugar problems and type 2 diabetes. Higher insulin sensitivity means that your body can lower the blood sugar better with the same amount of insulin as your neighbor. So basically you get more bang for your buck for the same amount of insulin you produce, which is of course always a good thing, especially if you have a problem with insulin resistance. Another great option to eat are kiwis. Kiwis contain per unit of weight way more vitamin C than, for example, oranges. And people consider oranges to be very healthy. When it comes to kiwi, it's better to eat the green one than the yellow and gold one, because the yellow and gold one tends to contain more sugars and carbohydrates per unit of weight and less dietary fibers. And other somewhat strange categories are tomatoes, olives, lime, and lemon. Although most people consider these to be vegetables, officially they are fruits and you are able and allowed to eat them if you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. Now don't ask me why somebody would want to eat lime and lemon, but if you for some reason like to eat it, not drink it, then you're more than welcome to do that. As you've seen in this video, when it comes to fruit, there are a lot of things to consider. And unfortunately, people make a lot of mistakes when it comes to the fruits they pick. And to make things even worse, this is not the only category where they make mistakes. In all areas of people with high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, we see that they make wrong choices, often by accident and subconscious. That's why it's good to delve into what's good for your body and blood sugar and what's not. And if you want to learn more about what fruits are good and healthy to consider when you have high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, then I advise you to follow the link in the description of this video. You'll find an article about fruit, high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. And if you're on our website anyway, you'll be able to download our diabetes-free secret for free. This is a small document we compiled in which we teach you the causes of high blood sugar and type 2 diabetes and what you can do to prevent, improve, and fully reverse these problems with a healthy lifestyle. So follow the link, download our free giveaway, and if you have any questions about this video, leave a comment down below and I'll see you in the next video.